Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. First off, some people have played Apex Legends, and they've noticed that it has a really good pinging system. So they're like, well, what if we put that in Overwatch? Would that be good? Yes. There's no situation in which more pings is going to be bad, really. Apex Legends has a very good communication system. Like, you can ping so much shit. It's incredible. Very good communication system. Especially for someone like me who hates talking to actual human beings. Diamond and above players, who are your noob stomper heroes? What hero would you pick to most easily and painlessly stomp your way out of gold, silver, and why? I've done this before, and the hero I chose for that was Soldier 76. And the reason for that is he's just extraordinarily independent. Like, he does damage, but he doesn't require healing, really. He's pretty tanky, because he's got the biotic field, basically. It makes him very independent. And he's got an ultimate that punishes people for doing dumb shit, which they'll be doing a lot in lower SRs, and you can just kind of, like, fight people. Like, the Winston will jump on you, because he knows that he's meant to jump on you, but you can just stand and fight the Winston, because he'll be jumping on you alone. You just put the biotic field down, walk into him, and fight him. You know, stuff like that. He's also very easy to play, basically, which is also a very big benefit. Easy to play, can have a big impact, extremely independent hero. All good stuff. And I am of the opinion that in lower SRs, you can get to higher SRs just by controlling the high ground. And Soldier is one of the best heroes for controlling the high ground. Because, I mean, he's a hit-scan hero, but he's independent. So that's basically it. On the fast track to bronze as a Reinhardt main. So about 3 to 4 months before the last patch, I definitively decided that I was going to play Rein, as I had a lot of success and a lot of praise whenever I'd play him. I managed to drag myself slowly from 1800, 2000 is to 2500 over the course of those 2 months. Nice job. It should be noted, I play probably 66% quick play matches and the rest are competitive. I don't focus solely on it, but I've been participating in it since launch. But with this latest patch, I've already experienced getting thrown down all the way back to 1800. Recently unemployed and making the worst of my time. I'd like to blame the Reaper and armor changes, as it seems I get melted as fast as any DPS characters. There's always a Reaper on my tail, or someone else with rapid fire who knows what's up. But I don't like that excuse, so I'm just posting mainly to ask what are my worries unfounded and the actual problem is something deeper, or should I go back to my previous main of 18 plus months, who happened to be Reaper, to pick up the slack? I mean, up until recently, we haven't really seen much Reaper in the game, so having to suddenly play against Reaper very frequently will require an amount of adaptation, mostly from tank players, who are the most a threat from Reaper, usually. I don't think Reaper's as overpowered as everyone says he is. I think that people have just not been doing a good job of adapting to Reaper, and how he suddenly is a lot better at dueling someone, because he heals a lot, you know? I don't think he's overpowered. I think people are just bad at the video game and haven't adjusted to the fact that, oh, I should probably avoid this guy more actively now because he can actually, like, kill me, right? And I mean, it's also inconvenient that you will require a degree of assistance to deal with Reaper, especially as a tank, because there are not many tanks that can solo Reaper. Barring, like, outlier edge case scenarios, like Max Charge Zarya, who has her bubble ready and knew Reaper was coming, you know, stuff like that. So needing, like, some amount of help will be a problem, but I think it's a drastically overblown situation. One thing you need to understand about aim, oh god. Depending on your rank, you need to provide more or less value to win your games. This means if you're in Silver, you need to hit fewer shots to stay in Silver compared to a player trying to remain in Masters. Lower rated players are way easier to hit because their movement is worse and their positioning is less fluid. That's a very diplomatic way of saying their positioning is awful, isn't it? So even though your aim might be worse, your allies and your enemies compensate by being easier to hit. Your value doesn't come from the damage you deal, the kills you get, or the total amount you heal, but rather your overall impact. Let's go back to Ana and Moira. Say you can heal 15k as Moira and only 11k as Ana because of your aim. Still, you may be more useful as Ana because of the threat and impact of your nades and sleeps. Also, if you nano the right targets, you can win simply by enabling your teammates to pop off. True story. But even if we look over the added value of anti-nail sleeps and nanos, you may still provide more value as Ana, even if you heal less, because Ana has burst healing, allowing you to save people Moira can't. Ana also has ranged heals. This means Widow doesn't have to drop down from high ground to be healed, and it means Ana's Tracer can remain in the backline for longer. We're assuming you can hit the Tracer, I see, because you have to be able to hit the Tracer and see the Tracer. So there's a couple of modifiers on that one. So even though you may have healed less, your healing might still have been more impactful. Yeah, true story. I made a weapons chart. It's on the Overwatch wiki. Oh my goodness, look at all this information. You can basically see everything. Headshot is the last one. I know it's a little bit clicked off on there, but you can see everything basically. Look at that. Oh, wow. Bothered to measure bastions, 30 rounds per second. Yep, that sure is a lot of information right there. Boy howdy. Alright, great. So there you go. The wiki's a little bit better now. Is Ana a viable support to main in competitive? Yes, and if you can play Ana, she's pretty much the best one you can play, as long as you can play her to a decent level, because she has the most control over the game of any of the supports by far. Because she can do damage, she has a lot of healing, her cooldowns are really good, and her ultimate is really good, so as long as you can play Ana decently well, she's by far the best support to main in competitive because of the amount of control she exerts. Got a lot of VoDs. Chair, desk, posture question. I've never found a comfortable way to sit at the desk while playing Overwatch after a full year of PC. So just kind of here, is it how do I sit? Well, I know I already sit kind of fucked up because I don't use the mouse. I don't actually use, like, I have a keyboard tray on my desk, but I don't actually use it for the keyboard or the mouse or anything like that. I use it to rest my arm on. So I guess I, like, rest my right arm on the tray, and then my left arm's on the chair. But I, like, sit slouched back like a fucking slob, because I'm a slob, so I don't really know how to answer this question. Basically, I was just suddenly sat and thought, well, how do I sit? I sit pretty fucked up. I also sit, like, with my legs up on the chair, which is, like, terrible posture. Don't sit like I sit. But it's comfortable, damn it. I'll worry about the repercussions when I'm 40. That's future me's problem. Need help with Farah. Oh, it's a VoD. Okay. Why do people always demand 2-2-2? I mean, because it's very easy to execute. Like, 2-2-2 is one of those... It's like the Mario of, like, team compositions, where it's very rarely ever going to be fantastic, but it'll also never be terrible. But it's very well-rounded, and it's very easy to play. It's very straightforward. It requires no specific tactics, really. Whereas, like, a dive comp, goats, anything like that, even like just like Bastion Cheese, something like that, they require a specific strategy and more coordination, whereas 2-2-2 is just very easy. Also, people like just a defined meta, basically, and this was the first thing that got defined as like a meta team composition, so that's just kind of stuck, really. But also, there were a lot of guides and videos and all kinds of shit early on about how 2-2-2 was the best comp. And that's just gonna stick with people for basically as long as Overwatch exists now. Once, like, one solid meta appears, like, that tends to stick in the video game. Just look at all MOBAs, where they've remained mostly the same, disregarding, like, dramatic system changes that they've received. Like, League of Legends has been going for, like, fucking 1,000 years at this point, and it's been, since, like, Season 1, it's been one top laner, one mid laner, one jungler, 2 bot lane, 1 AD carry, 1 support. Because it's straightforward, it's easy, mathematically it works out for a bunch of reasons I won't go into because they'll bore you probably, but... And that's never really changed. There were a few situations. There was a point where we didn't have a jungler because they added an item that they didn't really think through very thoroughly, but So that kind of changed it, where we instead had 2 top lane and no jungler for a little while, but that didn't last long because they decided they didn't like that one very much, and they changed that within like a week. But like as soon as one thing appears meta-wise, people just kind of stick to it. And then, you know, people are stupid, so they just get these things into their heads like, well, if we don't have 2-2-2, we're gonna lose, even though they don't actually, like, really know what that means. And you can tell they don't, because they'll demand 2-2-2, but they'll be happy if you pick Roadhog Zarya as your tanks, right, a lot of the time. And Roadhog Zarya is an awful combination of tanks to have. But they push tab, and they see 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers. So they don't care. They're fine with it at the end of the day. So they know they want 2-2-2, but they don't know why they want it, you know? It's just one of those things where, like, if they don't have anything meaningful to contribute, really, they can just go, we should have 2-2-2. So there you go. People are stupid, basically. Overwatch settings to Apex Legends. How do you transfer Overwatch says? What's the... Hey, that's a website somebody should make, where you plug in a game and the sensitivity that you play that game on, and then you add and then you go put the other game on, and then it converts that sensitivity to its equivalent in the other game. That's a website they should put in right there. That'd be a good website. Somebody who knows how to do something, like coding-wise, get on that. No, you'd make some money, I'm sure. It'd be great. How do I counter cheese in No Limits? What I learned in GM, as a GM in Plat. Oh, Jesus Christ. Too long, didn't read, thank God. If your mentality is the following, you've got a problem. Every game I lose is because of my team, and every game I win is in spite of my team. Really, we need all of this to summarize that? We get like 5 articles of fucking 5 essays a day about this. Like, come on. What are the most incorrectly used alts at lower elo? Hanzo's a good one. Yeah, Hanzo's probably up there. Ashe is probably up there. It's very easy to, like, kill Bob or have him land somewhere. That's just not helpful. Like, Reinhardt players know how to use their ultimates, they just aren't very good at using their ultimates, but I guess, you know, incorrectly used. Though I think, when I think about incorrectly used, to me that means, like, they don't know how to use their ultimate properly, rather than they're bad at executing their ultimate. Orisa is probably really high as well. People will just put the bongo down and have it break almost immediately. People who have, like, really big combo ultimates, like Graviton and Emp, like, they know how they want to use the ultimates, but they're just really greedy, so they'll hold on to their ultimates, waiting for, like, the sickest, like, grandest Graviton or Emp they possibly can, when just, like, getting 2 people or 3 people is good enough most of the time. If we're talking about mechanically bad, people are very bad at using Genji's ultimate in lower elos, just because they don't think about their, steps properly. They know what they want to do, they just, like, don't know how to execute it properly still, that kind of thing. Widowmaker, they'll just use it, basically, whenever the fuck they have it, without really thinking about it. Who else? I think Orisa's gonna be the biggest one for me, because people waste the bongo just, like, all the time, basically. Yeah, I'll go with Orisa and Sombra as, like, the most incorrectly used. I'm curious about that one. Answers on a postcard. What do you think are the most incorrectly used ones at lower elos? How to dive on Horizon first point. Simple question with a probably complicated answer, really. I'm a master main tank, and I always play Winston on Horizon, but whenever I run an attack, I struggle figuring out how to dive the first point. From attacker's perspective, if I dive the far left corner of the catwalk, where the supports always sit, there's not enough space for me to use my bubble, and plus the panel blocks line of sight from my Ana, if I decide to chase to the stairs. If I dive the middle panel, normally near where the snipers hang out. That exposes me to way too much damage, and by the time I land, I'm frequently half health or less. Sometimes the team will sit on point, in which the supports will play around the back pillar, which is difficult to get to from any angle, as everyone on the point can shoot up onto me as I jump. Yeah, it's kind of a mess as far, like, it's one of those ones where you don't really have a great option as, like, Winston or D.Va, really. Hammond has a little bit more leeway just because he's extremely, like, difficult to kill, pretty much. I don't really play that much Winston, so I'm probably not, like, super qualified to answer this question, because I always play Reinhardt if I'm playing a tank, basically. And if I'm playing an off-tank, it's D.Va, so, like... But then I'll just stick with the main tank, basically. I don't go decide to play D.Va like she's Winston, you know? Because that'll get you killed pretty quickly. Yeah, I'm struggling to think of a very good answer for this one, to be honest with you. The best I can say is probably that you want to play, like, really cautiously and try to, like, pull people away from each other. Because you don't always just have to be going ham constantly as Winston, right? You could, like... If they're sitting up on the catwalk, you can just, like, jump straight on the point, and, like, yep, they'll hop down to contest you and all that. But then you just, like, leave, and you've, like, pulled the team apart, right? And then you make it a little bit easier. Like, you've created an amount of disturbance that might make it easier for your team to make something happen. You pull people away, so if they don't rotate properly, you can see an opportunity to jump on somebody else, blah, blah, blah. And if, like, nothing else, you can always just jump away, disengage, jump back again, and then, like, jump away and see if you find an opportunity next time. You can try and coordinate with your teammates a little bit more, because it's a lot easier to kill people as Winston if you've got somebody helping you. So if you're gonna jump on the supports or the snipers, which you're usually trying to do on Horizon, right? That's the ultimate goal, usually, is to dive the people on the catwalks. If you've got, like, a Genji, a Tracer, a Sombra, even a Widow or a Hanzo, if you can coordinate with them a little bit more, or, like, the D.Va on your team, anything like that, if you can coordinate with them a little bit more, it becomes a lot easier. Because if you're playing Winston, I assume you have a somewhat aggressive team comp as well, because usually you'll pick Winston with an aggressive team. Not always, but usually. Because if, like, you and the Genji jump on the supports, and you focus the same support, then it's a lot easier to kill that person, and then you can just disengage immediately afterwards, or, like, keep going for more kills, depending on how things go. So, like, coordinating with your team will be the easiest thing you can do. Well, depending on your teammates, right? But that'll be, like, the most consistent results, like, purely on paper, because it's a lot easier to kill someone if two people are trying to kill that person, right? Especially if it's someone like Winston doing just, like, guaranteed damage to somebody, makes it a lot easier for, like, a Tracer or a Genji to finish somebody off, because suddenly they don't need to do the full health and damage anymore. They only need to do, like, 2/3 or half, you know, something like that instead. Otherwise, like, don't be afraid to just be, like, a little pokey proddy, be, like, really patient and wait for an opportunity, which is, you know, if the enemy team is kind of playing around Winston correctly, you kind of have to be pretty patient a lot of the time, because you can't just jump into 6 people, right? So you either need to coordinate with people, try and, like, pull the enemy team apart as best you can, or just be, like, really patient. Those are basically your only options for Winston, usually, in general. Horizon is, like, a really difficult map to dive on. Like, the first checkpoint, anyway, just because, like, the geometry is, like, really inconvenient for diving tanks, basically, like Winston. Why doesn't Overwatch have a minimap display? Imagine a minimap you can draw on and ping on. Oh, God. You think the Overwatch community can be trusted with that kind of power? They can't. You can open and close it with a key press or toggle it if you want it displayed on the screen or not, so clutter isn't a thing. Just disable it if you don't want it. You can't do that. If there's something like that's a feature in the game, you have to have it enabled, or you're just, like, playing it at a disadvantage. Why isn't this a part of the game? People don't seem to like uncoordinated teams, and the lack of strategy seems like that might help. So the thing is, I don't think a minimap would really help with Overwatch, because, like, It's one more thing you have to watch, basically. So here's the thing. Like, I don't think you would need to watch it anyway, just because of the way the game is, like, made. I don't think a minimap would really improve things, because you can already see your teammates through walls, right? And they don't want you to see, like, exactly where your teammates are. So you couldn't even go with, like, a Halo-style minimap, right? Which is just a little circle in the corner that's like a motion sensor and it shows you your teammates, right? You couldn't do that in Overwatch because they don't want you to know, like, exactly where people were. If you got a motion sensor on the screen, then suddenly flankers are, like, completely waste of time, right? They don't work anymore unless they have some kind of thing that exempts them from the minimap, but that's getting, like, kind of fucked up and inconsistent. So you can't do that. So, like, if you have, like, a Dota, League of Legends style minimap, like, what's the point, ultimately? Because you can already see your own teammates just by looking around. I guess it would make it easier to track them, especially if you're, like, the front line. You can look at the minimap rather than looking physically back at your teammates to see what they're doing. But, like, Overwatch already has, like, a lot going on screen, right? Like, people, as the game currently is, struggle to focus on playing the game and keeping an eye on the kill feed, right? Which is literally something appeared in one corner of the screen, which would usually, like, grab your attention a little bit, right? People struggle to watch that. And so, if we then also add in a minimap, that's one more thing people have to track while everything's going on in a game of Overwatch, which is already, like, a very visually busy and chaotic game, right? And I was just like, what's the point? So you can have a thing to draw on? Like, I think they'd rather, like, as far as the Blizzard team's concerned, I think they'd rather you just talk to your teammates rather than draw penises on a map, you know? Like, I just don't really see the point. I don't see how it would improve the game significantly, because anything the minimap reasonably could do for Overwatch isn't really improved by a minimap dramatically, because it would purely, for Overwatch, it would have to purely be tracking your own teammates, basically. Like, what's the point? I do think that Overwatch would benefit dramatically from, like, the Apex Legends kind of ping system, just because that ping system is fantastic. You can communicate so much to people with basically no communication at all, like, no verbal communication at all. You can communicate pretty much everything you need to, which is fantastic. Like, you can ping, like, even if you ping, like, an item on the ground, right, you ping, like, body armor, like a sniper stock, something like that, it'll ping it, and if it's like a scope, the person you're playing will say, like, scope, mid-range, level 3, things like, they'll go really in detail about it, so you have to communicate nothing verbally, basically. It's great. So, like, Overwatch would benefit from a more robust ping system. What I always really wanted when they, gave us the ability to, like, really early on, when they gave us the ability to hot wheel, like, sprays and, voice lines and everything like that, what I really wanted them to add was a set of, like, blank slots on the wheel where you could put basically anything in. So you could put, like, a custom ping into it, basically. So if I'm playing Reinhardt, I can set up a ping that's like, my shield is at half health, right? Or I could set up another ping that's like, my shield is at like a third health, right? Or I can put in a ping, I'm looking to use Earth Shatter, things like that, right? Because then they don't really have to define the pings that the players want to use. You can make your own pings instead, which I thought would be very good. Like, obviously, people are gonna make pings that are like, cox, 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 slur, 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 blah, 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 blah. Obviously, like, you know, whatever. We just fucking ban those people. Take the feature away from the people that can't be trusted with it, you know, stuff like that. Like, yeah, some people would abuse this system, but, like, the system itself would be so very helpful to have in Overwatch. Because you can do so much with that. Like, if you can just put in a ping, that'd be great. Barring that, just, like, put a more robust ping system in, like, look over there, like right now. Like just like a look over there ping, right? That alone would be great. Be careful of that area, you know, stuff like that. You can just ping where an enemy is, like you don't need to see them, you've just got to ping this like an enemy's there, so I can be like, Widow's behind that wall, so I ping enemy there, you know, on that wall. It's just basic stuff like that would be great, you know? I don't think a mini-map would improve things, but I do think a more robust pinging system would be great. And I think, like, that's always been the case, but I think now that Apex Legends has come out, it's like, Jesus Christ, every game is so far behind this game in terms of communication. They'll even there's even a feature that'll convert incoming voice chat to text if you have a hearing impairment. So that's cool as well. You know, obviously that's a lot more time investment and effort to make a feature like that, but we can do just more pings. That'd be great. Turrets, am I crazy for thinking this? Can someone tell me if my logic is wrong on this? I think that a turret with perfect accuracy will always be worse than a player because a player can improve their accuracy, while a turret cannot. So you have to balance the turret around a particular tier of gameplay, and for anything over that, it's going to be worse by default. I feel like this is common sense, but a lot of people are disagreeing with me. Am I crazy? It's like that argument. I remember seeing this argument that was like, Goku versus Superman. And I've seen this argument, like, Superman would, like, dunk on Goku, because Superman's just, like, invulnerable. Like, that's the entire point, basically. But I've seen this argument that's like, Goku's actually better than Superman, because Goku doesn't appear to have an upper limit on his power, whereas Superman does. But, like, Superman, it's like, you know, One Punch Man kind of thing, right? It's like Saitama is, like, hands down the strongest creature in existence. You know, it's not even close. He's comically stronger than everybody else, right? It's like, yeah, okay, Goku could get to the point of being stronger than Saitama, theoretically, right? But, like, Superman's just gonna dunk on Goku. So it's like that kind of argument to me. It's like, oh, well, this thing has perfect accuracy, but a player can improve their accuracy, and a turret can, but it already has perfect accuracy, right? So a turret's always going to be worse than a player, because it's one of those things where, like, if you tell a machine to do something, it will do it, right? It will do exactly what you tell it, and sometimes you don't want it to do exactly what you tell it, because, like, the turret will focus the wrong people. It has perfect accuracy, but it has no concept of target selection, right? That's the issue with turrets. Because machine, you know, if you tell a machine to do something, it'll do exactly that. And that might not be what you want it to do, even though you told it to do that, right? If you want an example of that, go look up the game Soma, where the AI was told to keep the humans alive. The AI will keep the humans alive. It'll find a way, but maybe it would be better if it didn't, actually. So, like, I don't know, the argument's weird to me. Maybe it's me, but, like, it's got perfect accuracy, but a person's better because they can improve it. So could a human theoretically be better than perfect? Seems unlikely. But the actual issue with turrets is just that they're dumb, more than anything else. People are also dumb, though, so you know. Genji help. I don't really know what I'm doing wrong. I have 41 hours on Genji, and I'm not managing to finish off kills. My accuracy is amazing versus Anabots. Yet in a game, it's terrible. I'm starting to change my playstyle to try and get ult as quick as possible. Only going in when I know I can get a kill. That's fine, honestly. This is why I've never liked Anabots, and this is my reason why. It doesn't convert properly, because humans don't act like bots, right? That's the my teammates are bots, the enemy team's bots. Okay, They don't actually act like bots, though, do they? Because bots have a very specific pattern they follow, pretty much. So, like, if you get really good at shooting the Anabots, are you actually really good at shooting? Or are you really good at shooting the bots? Those two things are not the same. If you're playing a fighting game, oh, he learned to play a fighting game and he never shuts up about it anymore. I know. Like, it's very easy to execute the combos in the practice room, but when you're actually playing against another human being, it becomes a lot harder to do that combo suddenly. Because suddenly you might not be starting that combo in optimal circumstances like you are in the training room. If you go on one of the Dragon Ball FighterZ subreddits, you'll find like 50 versions for A Touch of Death, like every day. There's like 4 new videos for A Touch of Death on both subreddits, right? And the thing is that, like, that's really stupid to focus on that kind of thing as much as people do, because it's like, if you connect in an optimal circumstance, you can do this, provided you execute on it perfectly, and kill one character at the expense of many, many resources. And you might just drop the combo, because the Touch of Deaths are extraordinarily long, complicated combos. But people focus on that kind of thing, right? And it's, but they can do it in the training room 100% of the time. Can you do it against a human being? It depends, right? So I've never liked Anabots for, like, that reason. That it just doesn't translate to human beings particularly well, because they don't act the same way. Anyway, but I'm not sure what to do with Genji when people are peeling and I can't focus on a support when I'm getting murdered by a DPS, and then I don't get a reset and get killed. I can never finish people off before they manage to get back to their team. Also, when my team isn't really engaging, I feel useless because I know I can't dive in on my own without getting killed. With my problem set, I feel like it's to do with my positioning and playstyle and possibly getting a bit panicky in the middle and not being able to aim. What am I doing wrong? Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that's like, it would be a lot easier to answer this question if you see gameplay, you know, because it's kind of a vague thing of like, well, what am I doing wrong? Here's some conditions. So, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with playing Genji in a pretty, like, scavenging vulture kind of way, basically. Like, Genji is strong because of Dragon Blade, right? Like, there are heroes where their ultimate is better than the hero. Dragon Blade is better than Genji, right? If you want an example of a hero being better than their ultimate, Pharah is better than Barrage, right? Like, so, like, there's nothing wrong with just, like, farming as much ult charge as possible and then making big plays with Dragon Blade, because provided you make the big play with the Dragon Blade, you won the team fight. So that's fine, because you don't need to win many team fights to win the game, usually. So that's fine. But, like, you know, there's, like, an entire playstyle of Genji where you don't even really, like, go behind the enemy team that much. Where you just, like, stick with your team, poke and prod at people because you have decent range, build up ult charge, and if you see an opportunity to kill someone, you can dash through the enemy team, get the reset, and dash back out again, right? So you still have the opportunity to pick people off, but, like, you're just kind of, like, sticking with your team and playing in, like, a really conservative, like, scavenging vulture, farm ult charge method. And that's fine. Like, people play Genji like that way. I can play Genji pretty well because I play like that. I play like a scavenging little vulture, where I just sit back and, like, throw shurikens at people, and if I see an opportunity, I'm like, great, that guy's half health. Dash in, melee, right-click, dash away. Great times. It's actually right-click, melee, dash away. You get the idea. Because, like, it's very easy to, like, dash through somebody, turn around, right-click when you're like, touching the person, melee, dash away again, right? That's pretty easy. And, like, just building a, like, Dragon Blade is, like, 90% of the reason to play Genji, and probably more like 70% of the reason to play Genji, right? Like, hey, yeah, I don't know, if you can play really aggressively and, like, get on the Moira's face and just, like, murder her straight up, right? Like, that's obviously gonna be a benefit. But it's not a strict requirement for how to play the hero. Similarly, if you're gonna play, like, Widowmaker, right, you don't need to be, like, fucking Kefri or something, right? You don't need to be, like, the highlight reel Widowmakers where they'll hookshot into the air and headshot 3 people before they land, right? You don't need to be that way. Because if you, like, as long as you can consistently land just, like, a body shot, right? Like, if you land a body shot on one of the supports or DPS, and anybody, like a Winston, a D.Va, Genji, Tracer, anybody, even a Moira Orb, right? As long as, if anybody else is in a position to, like, finish that person off, you did most of the damage. So even though you didn't get the kill credit, like, you made that kill happen, even though you only got the guy in the body, because that did most of their health and damage, and then they got finished off because a fight was happening around them, right? Like, yeah, if you can land the headshot really consistently, that's great. But just being able to, like, hit people, set up kills, rather than necessarily get the kill. Like, setting up a kill is the same as getting a kill, basically, right? And, like, abusing line of sight and everything to, like, force people to position difficultly, you know, stuff like that. Using infrasight optimally, stuff like that. Like, you don't need to be, like, the crack shot, 100% accuracy, headshot Widowmaker, right? Like, if you can, fantastic. Not everybody can, though. There's other aspects of Widowmaker you can abuse and still be as impactful as the Widowmaker that can just headshot 5 people, right? Slight hyperbole on that one, because if you can solo kill 6 people, like, really reliably, you're probably actually cheating. But, you know. Anyway, so, like, there was nothing really wrong with playing Genji that way. So, like, don't necessarily worry about it, because that's a playstyle for Genji, pretty much. So, you know, whatever works for you, you know? If you want to be like the Seagulls, dashing in, being behind the enemy team, being aggressive, great, work to that, but, like, you don't have to. You don't have to play Genji like that. How should an off-tank play with a Hammond? Try not to have Hammond be your main tank in competitive, unless you're playing with, like, 5 or 6 people, so you could coordinate. Because having Hammond as your main tank is nowhere near as intuitive as having any of the other main tanks. So maybe consider just treating Hammond like an off-tank. I know Hammond can be a main tank. I know. If you watch fucking Overwatch League or coordinated plays or anything like that, you know, Hammond is a main tank. Yeah, fantastic. Competitive's not the same. You queue up with 5 random people. They probably don't know how to play with Hammond as a main tank. So maybe just pick a more standard main tank and treat Hammond as an off-tank. Blizzard has been terrible at cracking down on toxicity for the past few seasons. Yeah, Overwatch community is awful. The Overwatch community is the worst community I've ever been a part of. And I've played League of Legends. And you know, one of my friends, we played League of Legends, started playing Overwatch, and now we've started playing League of Legends again. And, like, we played a game of Overwatch after playing League of Legends for a little while, and she went, I forgot how toxic the Overwatch community is. I was like, you know, it's a sad day when the League of Legends community is a breath of fresh air compared to another community, right? Like, that's really fucked up. Blizzard's really bad at dealing with toxic people, yes. But all of the companies always are, aren't they? Like, that's not exactly a Blizzard-specific issue, really. Confused on SR at higher ranks. So I've been putting in the hours lately to get out of gold. Bought a second account to work on positioning the last couple seasons. Finally back on the main, and I've gotten myself from 2K to 2,400 in 3 days. Good job. That's a good climb. Now today I lost 3 games in a row. Throws in all 3. It happens, so no big deal. But what surprised me was the SR loss. When I was winning games, I was getting 20-30 SR with a win, and losses about the same. I just went from 2,408 to 310, 2310 in 3 losses. Completely one-sided throwed games. Is it just maybe to do with the SR of the teams? It's a performance-based SR system. performance-based SR losses and gains. So, like, if you win in, like, a stomp and you... Well, this doesn't necessarily... It compares your stats to average stats from people in a similar SR MMR range to you. And then it adjusts your SR gains and losses accordingly. So, like, if you're in a game where, like, somebody threw on your team, right, you got a thrower, lever, whatever, you're gonna get, like, fucking wrecked in that game, basically, and your stats are gonna be really bad. So, like, you're probably gonna lose more on that game, on average, than the other games. Not by a whole lot, probably by a difference of, like, 10 SR most of the time, except in, like, very extreme outlier situations, but, like... So, you know, it's... If the games had throwers in them, your stats were probably really bad compared to the average, so the system goes, bad job, punish. Also, like, I'm not sure how true this is, but I've been told this by enough people that it's, like, probably somewhat true at least, that I've been told the single biggest quantifier, or affecting factor for how much SR you gain and lose is time spent on fire in a game. I don't know if that's true or not, but enough people have said that now that I'm like, it's probably at least somewhat true that being on fire is a fairly big indicator. So, like, if you had a thrower on your team, you were probably never on fire the entire time, you know, so... But I don't know how true that one is. Take that one with a grain of salt. I've never seen, like, compelling evidence that that's true. But I've been told it by a lot of people. What makes Reinhardt fun? Not trying to BM Rein players. That's okay. We BM ourselves all the time. But I've been flexing to main tanks with some joy on my mid-diamond account, but just cannot bring myself to ever want to play Rein. That's some relatable content right there. Ever, I want to know why you brain players like him so much. I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe your answer could point me in the better direction or understanding. Even if he never becomes my favorite. Or does everyone else just hate the rectangle man deep down like me? So, I mean... I don't think anybody really wants to play Reinhardt. Because Reinhardt's by far the hero I've played the most in Overwatch. But I never... wanted it to be that way. I wanted, when the game came out, to be a Tracer main. The problem is, no one wants to play Reinhardt. And particularly at that point in time, Reinhardt was pretty much a required member of your team comp, which is debatably still true, in my opinion, but, you know, opinion varies. So, no one wanted to play Reinhardt, so I was like, well, we gotta have a Reinhardt. So I guess I'm gonna play Reinhardt. And then that just kinda stuck. So, I remember seeing this, this post that I can't quote verbatim, but it was somebody talking to a Reinhardt player. And the Reinhardt player basically went, like, in a really, like, dull and dead tone. Don't let people tell you what to do. Because then you end up like me. And, yeah. It's... Reinhardt's really fucking boring to play. Like, to be honest with you. When everything goes well, it feels fantastic. Like, when you fucking read the enemy Reinhardt perfectly, and you run up, and you bait that Earth Shatter out of him, and then you immediately turn it around and Earth Shatter his whole team and run in swinging and kill 5 people. Feels great. Feels awesome. Do you know what 90% of the experience playing Reinhardt is? Hold right click and W. And that's it. It's really boring. And then you fire strike every now and then to gain ult charge, but it's mostly just to give you something to do to occupy yourself, basically. You take a fire strike break, go back to holding right click and W. And that's it. It's not fun. It's not fun. Except when everything's going really well, which it very frequently isn't. Reinhardt has a very big sadness to happiness ratio. Like, you're gonna be upset playing Reinhardt a lot more than you are happy playing Reinhardt. Don't play Reinhardt. Find something else to do. Avoid it at all costs. It's not enjoyable. If you do enjoy playing Reinhardt, dude, I thought I was fucked up. Oh, I started playing supports. Moira and Bridget are way more enjoyable to play. You do other stuff sometimes. It's great. There's gameplay in there. Isn't Bridget just autoplay? Fuck you. So, there, to answer your question, he isn't. Is it better to have a sensitivity for turning quickly enough or being precise? Being precise, but you do also want to be able to, like, do a 180, like, easily, you know? Like, if you have to, like, pick up your mouse repeatedly to do a 180, your sensitivity probably could be a little bit higher. But you do also want to be, like, really precise. I remember seeing, like, this, rule of thumb where you want your sensitivity to be low enough that you can move your mouse a single pixel easily, if you have to. And I mean, you know, I guess, whatever. You'll rarely be in a situation where you're like, you know, 1 pixel movement, but it's basically like, that's pretty much, like, you can't get a lot more precise than that, really, without being, like, horribly slow. But I mean, whatever works for you. Ideally, you want to be able to do a 180 easily, without, like, having to pick your mouse up, like, 4 times, you know? But you do want to be precise, also, so really low is pretty good. Like, my sensitivity is 4.7. I don't know what my DPI is on this mouse. Does it say on the mouse? Because that's the only way I'm going to find out. Nope, doesn't have it written anywhere. My old mouse had it written on it what the DPI settings were. I don't know what the DPI is on this mouse. It's the second lowest one, though, because that's the lowest one's color, and then that's the one I play with. Exact one higher, and then it goes like 4 more colors up. So, pretty low. Pretty low DPI. Is it reasonable to push for more people to play Moira and Mercy over Ana on PS4? Yeah, I've been told that Ana... because I don't play on the console, but I've been told by console players that Ana is better treated as an off-healer on console, just because aiming is so much harder on console, pretty much. So, yeah, based off what I've been told by people who play console, yes, that does seem reasonable to push for that. Aiming with Ashe. So I have a question about Ashe and aiming while scoped in. I've noticed the delay is way better, but when I'm scoped in, I swear my reticle is directly on the enemy, but I'm getting 0 hit markers. You know, like, it's one of those things where, like, I'm afraid to say that I've also had that issue, because I've always treated it as just, well, I'm probably bad, but I've also been told that there is a slight, discrepancy with the reticle and where the shots go on Ashe sometimes. And I've seen some, like, GIFs where people have done science, basically, to try and figure it out. My theory is, and I don't know if this is true, this is purely speculation, because I've observed this. When you fire your gun, the gun kind of shakes around a little bit when you're scoped in. And my suspicion is that it doesn't always return to the exact same position every time. So sometimes it leads to the shots being like a couple of pixels off, basically, which leads to situations where you're like, I totally hit that guy. What the fuck, you know? That's my suspicion. I don't know if that's true. I haven't bothered to look into it, but I've heard that I've seen things where it's like, oh yeah, that boy definitely clicked on that man, but the bullet seemed to go straight through him. So that's my suspicion, but I don't know if that's true. Also, how come I'm not landing shots at distances, but the enemy Ashe is? Isn't that life? Isn't that just life right there? Why is the other Widowmaker always shoot me? I don't understand, you know? Like, that's just... sometimes it be like that. I come up against a Smurf that was able to hit me for no reason, but I couldn't land a single shot in any of them, even if they were standing still. Yeah, so, I mean, I've seen evidence of it being off, so... hey, you know. It's like that old glitch that sometimes still happens, but much more rarely now, with Riddlemaker and McCree. And if you played them at the time this was around, you probably saw it at least a few times, because it was like a really common bug for a while, where if you were scoped as Widow, sometimes it would shoot twice, like... It was difficult to describe, but like you would have one shot, and I think it was something to do with like the server ticking right as you did the input. I don't remember exactly how it went. But like you would shoot, and there would be one shot, but then like a couple of inches above that there would be another shot as well. And it would be like neither shot seemed to ever accomplish anything. And McCree would do the same thing, except he didn't have to be scoped, obviously, because he doesn't have a scope. But like, that like happened with them a lot back in the day. That glitch like still happens sometimes, but it's way less common now. So I think it was a server tick issue. But yeah, we've been known to have some aim-related bugs in this game now and then. I think people have it who are at higher ranks have it lucky. I deserve to be in gold, plat, etc., etc. I think it's kind of unfair how good communication is natural with people at the highest tiers. When you watch streamers, sure they have amazing technical skill, but their teams also innately understand basic concepts like joining voice chat. Who cares? I don't care. I don't join voice chat. I got the masters. It's fine. Don't talk to human beings. They suck. Composition, grouping up, going into together, positioning, blah, blah, blah. There are so many facets of the game wherein you have to rely on your team that I think will continue to impede progress for a lot of players and thereby their overall fun. Yeah. You're not wrong. You know, it is nice when I'm in higher SRs to be able to just assume that the other heroes probably know what they're doing, at least to a decent degree. Because someone will usually have to fill to a different role, but, like, generally you're gonna have people who know what they're doing. Yeah. You know? But at the same time, the enemy team are easier to punish at lower SR, so I think it balances out in the end. But yeah, you know, you're not wrong. Why does Blizzard hate shield tanks so much? Always. Tank players are so fucking delicate. Ironically. Every patch. Every patch. So I drop some SR, blah blah blah, usually high plat, low diamond, but after a particular blah blah blah, I don't really have a main, it usually varies, but anyway. I play main time, so I select Rhino and team proceeds to absolutely stomp the other team on Dorado. They didn't get the first checkpoint. I did my job as tank, shielding and enabling my team, even though they got a huge shatter to prevent moving past them. I got 15 SR for the win. I've never gotten lower than 20 when playing DPS support. I mean, it can happen, yeah. The thing is that, like, you know, the performance-based SR system is fucked up this way, where, like, DPS basically get favored because they have more stats they can excel in compared to a DPS and a support, usually. So, you know, they're more favored by the system. The next 3 games I played, yeah, like, why would anyone voluntarily play a shield tank? Here's a secret for you, right? If you're really good at Reinhardt in lower SRs, the game is extremely easy. Because the other Reinhardt's bad, but you're good at Reinhardt, right? So you wait, you earth shatter the enemy team and you win the fight. Right? You actually make space for your team. Yeah, your team are doing stupid shit, whatever. You still can make space for your team. You know, makes it easier for people. You block, you protect the people. You land the earth shatter. You swing the man. You swing at the bad man when you get the opportunity. All good stuff. So, yeah, you on average will find lower SR returns on a tank compared to a DPS, just because DPS are more favored by the performance-based SR system. But it's really easy to win the game as Reinhardt if you're good at Reinhardt in low SRs. The caveat is you do have to be good at Reinhardt. But if you are, it's very easy, actually. Which might be rich for me to say, being a man that got to Masters playing Reinhardt, right? That might be a little bit rich for me to say that. But, dude, it's so easy to play Reinhardt at low SRs. Like, you can win the game with one ultimate. Like, it's so good. I have a question. It's for all of those dead Mercy mains out there. So I was thinking about picking Mercy up for the res and damage boost, but I wanted to know how her damage boost works. So do you damage boost, then someone uses an ability, then it's boosted, or can Ryan Fire Strike, I attach the beam, and it hits for the damage boost? Oh, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe you have to be... No, that's not how if you damage boost the guy... I think it damage boosts it retroactively. So if he's used the Fire Strike and then you damage boost him, I think it still works. I think it still damage boosts the damage. How much does it damage boost it by? Oh, fuck, that's a good question. I don't know that one offhand, because they've changed the number a few times now. Overwatch, Wiki, Mercy. Like, we'll assume the Wiki is a reliable source. Don't cite Wikipedia on your paper, they'll be upset, but we'll assume the damage boost is 30%. So no, not 2 times. 2 times would be pretty crazy. Because if Fire Strike did 2 times the damage, it would kill a 200 health hero. So that would be pretty crazy. 30%. So the Fire Strike does 130 damage rather than 100 damage. I think it works retroactively, but I'm not sure. Now, it doesn't damage boost things that are considered a separate entity. So if you damage boost Torbjorn, his turret doesn't get stronger. If you damage boost Hanzo, his Dragon Strike does not get the damage boost. It used to, doesn't anymore. If you damage boost Junkrat while he's using his tire, the tire does not get the damage boost. Symmetra's turrets don't get the damage boost, because they're separate entities to the hero, basically. If you damage boost Ashe, it doesn't damage boost Bob, you know? Separate entities don't get affected by the damage boost. But I think it works retroactively on abilities that have been used, as long as they haven't hit anything. That was a stupid thing to add to the end, because obviously if it's already hit the guy, it's not going to go back in time and do more damage, right? You know, whatever. So I think, I'm not 100% certain on that one, actually. Does it say on the wiki? Maybe it says on the wiki. Healing beam stack with the, when amplifying it, no. Doesn't say here. I don't know. I'm not 100%, but I think it works retroactively. I'm like 70% sure. How to stay alive as Anna. I normally just stick back or sticking around Reinhardt protection using sleep darts and run away from the enemy, and that's it. So is there more ways? Bio grenade. If you're getting dove by a flanker, or a dive tank as well, if you hit yourself and the flanker / tank with the bio grenade, they'll usually be pretty inclined to stop trying to kill you anymore, because they suddenly lost a lot of health and can't be healed anymore. But yeah, like, all supports are, like, at least somewhat beholden to their teammates helping them stay alive when somebody tries to kill them, you know? Like, some people are more independent than others. Like, Anna's one of the more independent, honestly, just because she has 2 abilities that can be used to save herself, as well as she does damage. Moira's very independent, Lucio's very independent, but like, Anna, Zenyatta are 2 of the more dependent ones, right? Mercy is dependent on her teammates being in convenient locations more than, like, her teammates actively helping her a lot of the time, you know? But that's kinda it. Like, you don't have a lot of options if somebody's trying to kill you as a support, because they want your teammates to help you. How do I play Pharah against hit scans? On the rare occasions I do get to play DPS to try to play Pharah, but I always struggle against hit scans. I know hit scans are supposed to counter Pharah, but when I play Pharah against anyone in mid-plat or lower, I drop a bit. I can outplay them easily. I tried watching some games, but I can't find any good video games to study, and I'm not understanding it properly. The idea is pretty much to, like, sneak up on the hit scan hero, basically, because, yeah, the Widow can kill you pretty easily, but if you get the drop on the Widowmaker and land, like, a direct hit or really close to, like, before she knows what the fuck, suddenly it's a lot easier to kill the Widowmaker, right? So ideally you can sneak up on the Widowmaker. How you do that will vary heavily depending on the map and enemy team comp, plus where they're standing. So, like, there's a lot of variance in how you'll do it. But ideally, you sneak up on the person. Other options just kind of like poke and prod at the person a little bit, because the fire doesn't have to be like going in constantly. You can just play around cover, poke and prod at the hit scan for a DPS for a while, try and like force them back from the poke, just build up ult charge, wait to make big plays like that. Or you can wait for your team and just, you know, basically play really patiently and then move with your team. Or you can wait till you notice that the hit scan DPS's attention has been taken somewhere else. Like, if you're looking at, like, McCree, right? And you can see, like, he was looking at you. Like, assume you're on Hollywood, right? Like, we're at first checkpoint. We see McCree standing in the cafe balcony. So he's looking over at the gate where we are, or the rooftops. Alright, okay, so it's kind of scary to poke our face out right now because he's looking over here at us and he's going to try and shoot us when we stick our face out, you know? But if we see him suddenly turn and look towards the back alley because there's like a Tracer or a Genji over there or something, then suddenly we have the opportunity to move now because his attention is somewhere else. So he's less likely to notice us, and if he does notice us, it's going to take him longer, right? Because he's doing something else right now. So then that can be our opportunity, if we see that happen, to then like try and like move up to get into a better position to try and either sneak up on the guy or engage on him, right? Because if we're on Hollywood, you can like kind of just like go over and like you like concussive blast off the roof, land, like go near him and like shoot at him, get the drop on him, like get one shot in on him. Then it's really easy to get the second shot and finish the guy off, you know? This is kind of assuming things are happening in a bit of a vacuum because there's going to be other factors at play here, but you know, that's the theory. You try and sneak up on the guy, you try and wait for your team to engage a fight, or you wait to see the hit scan guy's attention get diverted onto something else. He's trying to help somebody because they're getting dove, he's looking for a flanker right now, right, you know? You see his attention somewhere else, that's your opportunity to make something happen. Or just the most consistent is try and sneak up on the guy. And that can be really easy / really hard, depending on the map. But that's sort of the idea. How should I play Roadhog in comp? Never tried Roadhog before, but I tried him and I'm liking him a lot when I'm playing him. But I do well, rarely die, good amount of elimination. So, alright, the biggest tip I got for you with Roadhog, I got two. I got two tips for you, really big ones. Don't just hook people for the sake of hooking them. Try to hook deliberately, and there's two reasons for that. First off, if you just hook people, like, whatever, like, you're just hooking them for the sake of hooking them, that's not necessarily great. Like, you want the person you hook to die, or have a really high chance of dying, right? So, like, if I hook the Hammond, and it's just me that's there, like, maybe one other person here, we're not likely to kill the Hammond, right? Me hooking the Hammond just got me, like, a little bit of ult charge, and that's it. But it costs you a really important cooldown to do that, right? Because, like, think about Roadhog's zone of threat, right? It's a 21 meter radius, because that's the length of his hook. But if they see your hook is on cooldown, your zone of threat suddenly becomes basically point-blank range. For the next 8-9 seconds? I forget how long the hook cooldown is exactly. For however long your hook cooldown is, it's suddenly, your zone of threat shrinks massively. So, like, an example I always give is, like, assume, like, we're trying to protect a Mercy from a Tracer right now, right? So it's us and Mercy versus a Tracer. The Tracer is really hard to hook, right? But she knows we can hook her, so she has to be careful when she does stuff around us because we have the opportunity to hook her and kill her, right? But if we try to hook Tracer, and it's like really low odds it actually works, like the Tracer's really far away right now, something like that, it's a weird angle, whatever. It's a low chance we actually hit her right now. If we try to hook her and we miss, suddenly Tracer goes, oh, Roadhog's, like, not a threat to me anymore, really, right? Because really unlikely Roadhog's gonna kill the Tracer without hooking her, right? So then suddenly the Tracer goes, Roadhog's not a threat, and she just goes ham on the Mercy because you're, like, not much of a threat to her anymore, right? Whereas, as long as you haven't used your hook, she has to be careful, at least, right? Because you can kill her. So you want to wait for a better opportunity to hook the Tracer. Like, she's close to you, she's looking away from you, something like that. Because then you have a way higher chance of hitting the Tracer than otherwise. And if you, like, you're less likely to miss. Like, you might still miss, in which case, the previous problem still applies, where Tracer goes, oh, not a threat anymore. But you want to maximize your chance of hitting the Tracer, because if you miss, suddenly the Tracer gets to kill Mercy, and there's not a lot you can do to stop the Tracer, right? So try to hook people deliberately. When you hook someone, you want a pretty good chance they die, right? You can't always guarantee it, but you want really good odds the person dies, at least. Don't hook people just for the sake of it. And don't just throw a hook out there, like, hoping it connects, basically. Like, try to be deliberate, because when people see your hook is on cooldown, you suddenly register as close to 0 threat to them anymore. So be careful how you use your hook like that. Second, be careful how you use your ultimate. Because Roadhog has one of the best defensive ultimates in the entire game. Because Whole Hog, or as I like to call it, the Rudy Tooty Whiz-Bang Shooting, is... basically, Roadhog calls off a fight, right? Like, it's very hard for them to fight through Whole Hog. They basically have to crowd control you, or wait for you to be done, basically. So, like, you see, like, Lucio use Sound Barrier, and they start speeding towards you. If, for whatever reason, you're not really feeling that fight, they've got the positional advantage on you, you're 5v6 or something right now, you know... what, you think they've got ult advantage right now, whatever, you know, you can call off that engagement. He uses Sound Barrier, starts speed boosting in. If you use Whole Hog, well, suddenly it's really hard for them to start moving forward anymore, right? You'll, like, break a Reinhardt barrier if it's there. You'll push them all back. You'll shave the Sound Barrier off them really fast, if nothing else. You'll really temper their aggression with Whole Hog. It's a very good defensive ultimate. It has very limited offensive potential. You need to be able to pin someone in a corner, combo it with another ultimate like Nano Boost or Graviton, or be near an edge, right? You need to be in pretty specific situations for it to be good offensively, but it's basically always good defensively. So be careful how you use Whole Hog, because it is just like, I can call off any fight that I'm really not feeling right now. So those are my two big ones for you for Roadhog. Mercy button remounts PS4, wouldn't know. My understanding is that the difference in a main tank and off tank is that a main tank takes space and an off tank holds space. Is this accurate? Yes, that's accurate. Over on our Discord server, it was James that said this. I remember this time, so I can give proper credit. He nailed it, which was that a main tank makes space, but the off tank secures the space. And that's pretty much exactly it. Reinhardt goes and holds the front line. The Zarya goes around and, like, bullies people and, like, secures the area. There's, like, a flanker there. The Zarya goes and bullies the man away, you know? Reinhardt's the one that's holding the enemy team back. And then the Zarya is kind of doing stuff in between that, really. And that might be helping the Reinhardt, right? Like, sure, her and his goals might be the same, but Zarya also has different responsibilities that Reinhardt doesn't have at the same time, because Reinhardt's predominantly interested in holding the front line. Zarya's got other stuff to do. So, yes, that is the correct distinction. Basically. I said basically as if that's somehow not true sometimes. That is the case. How do facilitate friendly Junkrat? What are good Junkrat comps? Everyone is a Junkrat who flexes Diva and is learning Ashe and Reaper. What are some good teams that what are some good ways that our team can facilitate him? What are some good Junker comps? Like Zarya is good because you can like Junkrat doesn't need to combo Graviton. Like, he doesn't need the tire or anything. He's just Junkrat spamming into the Graviton is pretty good. Mercy damage boosting Junkrat's really sick because it just makes it easier for him to like kill people basically. Like a Tracer comes up on you, he's got a damage boosted, the concussive mine kills that lady, basically. So there's, let's see, people can help, like, people like Genji, Winston, they benefit a lot from people who are just, like, doing ambient damage to people, basically. So, like, Junkrat's randomly hitting people and doing a lot of damage to them when he hits them. So, like, if you got, like, Genji, Winston, they can capitalize on that damage, jump in, finish the person off, get back out again, you know? So, like, flankers and divers benefit because just a lot of AoE damage floating around helps those people. Also true for, like, a Widowmaker as well. You can see somebody gets hit by them, you shoot the person in the body, they die, you know? those are the heroes, like good Junkrat specific comps. He's not really one that I think of like building a comp around. He's more the one that sort of fits into other compositions, like, or he's like good against specific compositions, because if they're running like a bunker comp with like Orisa and all that, Junkrat's really good at breaking shields quickly, so he's really good against that kind of comp. Anytime they're like playing a really like bunched together, tight-knit team, Junkrat like punishes that, because the more people that are bunched together, the more value Junkrat's getting just from his bombs, but also the tire. The more people who are grouped up, fantastic for Junkrat. So I don't really think about building an allied team around Junkrat that much. I think, in my opinion, he's better picked, like, again, it's better to think of the enemy team comp more than your own team comp in terms of Junkrat. But those are some heroes that, like, benefit from, either Junkrat benefits from, or they benefit from the Junkrat. Toggle or no toggle crouch? I like toggle, but that's personal preference. There's, like, you know, whatever you prefer. In your opinion, are one-trick alts throwers? No. Like, I don't, like, here's my thing, right? I've never cared about one-tricks, right? Because, ultimately, I don't care what you pick as long as you're trying to win. That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. As long as you're trying to win, you're not throwing. A thrower is intentionally trying to lose. As long as you're trying to win, I don't care what you do, basically. I might disagree with your methods, right? But as long as you're trying to win, what am I going to say, really? I might disagree with how you're trying to do it, but you're trying to win. That's the important thing to me. I don't care about anything else. It's purely the intent. The question about aiming tracking. I find that I might start playing a game and have great aiming tracking, but as soon as I start thinking about you psych yourself out so easily. As soon as I think about it, it gets worse. Dude, that's human beings for you right there. I think you'll find 90% of people are the same way. Does anyone else find that they aim better when they don't think about it? And if so, how do you keep yourself from thinking about aim? It's really hard. I basically focus on other things, but like, I've never been a person that's had trouble just kind of like putting something out of my mind, basically. So if I start thinking about my aim, I can just tell myself, stop thinking about that, and I stop thinking about it, right? But that's me. A lot of people will struggle more with that, like, so I don't really have advice to give you on that, because I personally don't have any trouble just like pushing something out of my mind. But yeah, like, when you're thinking about your aim, it's gonna be worse. You can psych yourself out so easily with something like aim. And like, anytime you watch a highlight reel play where the Widowmaker killed 5 people, the Widowmaker by the end of it was probably as surprised as everybody else, right? Because that's the kind of thing you do on instinct without really thinking about it, right? Because the more you think about it, the worse it's gonna be. It's like an instinct kind of play. When the McCree like rolls forward and headshots 3 people, like, he did that on instinct. He wasn't thinking about it. If you were thinking about it, you'd be like, alright, I'm gonna roll forward, I'm gonna shoot that man. Fuck, shit, I missed. Fuck. Right? Like, so yeah, that's life, you know. I don't have advice, though, for how to avoid thinking about it, because it's never been an issue for me, that kind of thing. So, we did good. Alright, we've been going for a while. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. If you enjoyed the video for some reason and managed to get all this way through, please like the video and subscribe for more videos of middling quality in the future, and I hope you found the video helpful.